of Mathematica Wolfram Desktop for the upcoming version, and we're looking at that on Windows machine. So we're starting from we're going to be going through both design, functional design, and graphic design aspects. This is a very big, clunky looking. I mean, it seems
well. So one of the things to understand right up front is that we are, for the first time, believing what the operating system tells us when we ask what the resolution of a given monitor is. And in version 12 and previous, under Windows and under Linux, we've always said, we've always just hard coded, 72 DPI. And it doesn't matter what monitor you had hooked up. We said it was 72 DPI. Windows helps us a little bit in the high DPI monitor cases by kind of faking stuff out, but it's all based on 72 DPI. That was never what Windows was telling us, not once. Even for low-res monitors, Windows was telling us 96 DPI. And that means when you start believing Windows, things get bigger.
Okay, but not everything. I mean, like this isn't bigger.
So there are some sizes of fonts. I don't know, Ian might be able to comment on this one, but there are some sizes of fonts that we get from the system, like the menu fonts there you're seeing.
So that menu is very tiny looking, and also those things look very, very, very close together to me.
They are the default font size for menus on Windows. If you wanted to know the exact value,
well, let's start looking here. I mean, sure. This looks absolutely monstrously huge. I mean, that 2+2 looks play school huge.
That is a 13-point font, and I've done this experiment multiple times. We can do it again if you would like to do it right now. But if you took WordPad and did the exact same font with the exact same font size, they would match.
So, I mean, if I were to look here at let's see, if I go to Wolfram Alpha, for example, and I start, okay, so those are pretty sober sized things. So let's say I type in 100 factorial here. Oh my God, what was that? Did you see that? Did you see those giant
gray squares? Yes, I didn't know what it was, but I saw them.
Jeremy, is Jeremy here?
I saw them. That's not a spec. I'm not sure what that was.
My God.
Yeah.
Well, that's the Edge browser. So.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing in my Edge.
Okay, so here, these are kind of sober-sized fonts that are, that don't look any different from what I'm used to seeing.
Those are bitmaps, remember.
Oh, that's right. So we have control over that. Okay, but this looks way too big to me. So what is the font size that we're picking? So this comes from the style sheet, is that right?
Yes.
Boy, it really looks too big to me. What does Jeremy think about this? I mean, I don't understand why. I mean, okay.
The big problem is there's a huge visual difference between what it looks like on Windows and Mac.
On both systems, we asked the system for a 13-point font.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the difference.
Okay, so one possibility is that we could have a default magnification that isn't 100% on Windows.
Well, then points aren't points anymore.
Well, at least you know that there's a magnification.
Well, I mean, if we do it for the user, do they know there's a magnification?
Well, it's sitting right there, and it's sitting right there in the magnification. I mean, in other words, that we bring it up. I mean, that is, we already made the decision recently when you deploy to the cloud, for example, it's going to ignore the magnification of, unless you tell it otherwise, of the deploying notebook, so to speak. It's going to independently decide what the magnification is based on the fact it's living in a browser on the cloud. We could do the same thing here. We could say the magnification is the responsibility of the viewing system.
So Macintosh and Linux are wrong across the board. Windows and Linux are wrong across the board. Only Macintosh gets the virtue of having a correct 100% magnification.
Well, we can do it the other way around. I mean, it's. I mean, but what we're being okay. Why is it that a 13-point font looks huge on the Windows machine and does not look huge on a Mac?
Because Mac claims to us that it's either, depending on whether it's a Retina display or not, claims to us that it's either 72 or 144 DPI. Now, if you take that ruler that's on your desk, or on your other desk, it's probably not on the desk you're in front of now, and you measure it, that turns out typically to be wrong. It was
a can of worms. Unbelievable can of worms.
It was right once upon a time. But monitors have gotten better. And Windows, by the way, has been saying 96 DPI
what does Word do? Does Word come up at 100%, or does Word come up at a different magnification? I thought Word came up at a different magnification.
Word by default, I was just looking at it earlier this morning. Word on both Windows and Mac default to 100%. So if you do new document, start typing.
How can that work?
Well, they're different sizes.
What do you mean different sizes?
No, same font size, but different visual appearances. If you look at Word if you took a Word document, typed in foo in a 13-point font, doesn't matter the font, and did that on Windows, it would have one visual size. You save it, put it on your Dropbox or whatever, open it up on Mac, the text is smaller.
Okay, but look, I'm looking at a web page here. I'm looking at my personal homepage, which I think is just textual HTML.
And by the way, Word's defaults are indeed a bit smaller. I mean, it's you bring up Word in modern Word, you're getting Calibri 11 points.
Okay. So at a 75% magnification, I mean, to me, this looks pretty reasonable. This kind of matches here. This looks fairly reasonable. Carl on our live stream is asking, are we talking about Windows? Yes, we're talking about Windows. This is about Windows. If you don't care about Windows, you're probably not going to care about, except that we're realizing that there's horrors all over the place.
Yeah. It's not just Windows, by the way. It affects Linux too.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Let me roll the possibilities out. Okay. I think the idea of defaulting to non 100% is not completely stupid. Okay. Given the can of worms that we have, we've either got
at standard DPI at like a standard res monitor, a non-high DPI monitor, not 100% would look really bad for lots of cases. Like any pixel-based art would look horrible. CA with, its pixel positioning like 1 or 2, it would look horrible. There's lots of these edge cases.
But the whole pixel perfect thing is that's another problem that is it's going to be very being pixel perfect is not a thing that we can do anymore. We can't even do it on the same system because you might have 2 monitors that have 2 different resolutions, which are not even integer multiples of one another. That's entirely possible.
Okay, so that's this, which is nice and crisp, at least for me. I don't know what it's like for you guys. And this is also bizarre. I thought pixel constraint, one just says it's one. This is frigging bizarre because the resolution of my monitor is much higher than this. So why did it think this was
pixel constrained is not something that we can do anymore. Well, what does pixel constrained mean when I can drag the window from one resolution
just happened?
to another?
Something very bizarre just happened. I pressed Command L, I think.
You pressed Windows L.
Yeah, which is lock.
Oh my gosh. What do I do now? Roger, help.
Just click anywhere and it should allow you to log in.
Press that, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Or press enter or whatever. It should get you to a login prompt somewhere.
Yeah, I just normally hit control.
Oh dear. So I have to not hit the Windows key too often.
Well, at least not with L.
Okay, I was trying to do Command L, Control L. Okay.
You can tell which of us in this meeting use Windows regularly, by the way.
Oh, that looks very crisp. That looks very, very crisp. And wow. Well, pixel perfect. I mean, the pixel constrained one doesn't look particularly good, actually.
Well, and I mean, my point is, I don't think pixel constraint even works anymore. I mean, I think we just have to deprecate it because it's too easy to. I mean, we really, heck, you could start the evaluation on one monitor, move the window from one monitor to the other while it's computing on you.
Sure. Oh gosh, what is this? I don't even know what that just did. I'm not used to, my fingers are not used to the okay. How do I get a command 4? Is it Alt 4?
Alt. Yeah.
That font is kind of sucky looking, isn't it? Is that our analogous? I mean, it looks much thinner than our font on other machines.
To remember exactly.
Gil Sans MT, isn't it?
Source Sans Pro.
The way
is that what it is?
Yeah, it looks like it's not the demi-bold.
No, it's not demi-bold. I have to look at the style sheet. Is it supposed to be?
Yeah.
Yes, it should be bolder than this.
I'm looking.
So, I mean, the thing that really bugs me is the difference between these sort of system things and this. I mean, so you're telling me,
gosh, I don't see a font weight setting for section in the default style sheet.
Yeah, I just see Source Sans Pro, font size 20.
28.
Am I in the wrong one? Wrong section. Yeah. Yes.
So what should I do here? Could I set this to demi-bold just to see what it looks like?
Sure.
So I go to style.
You can do it under font. And there's a semi-bold there, which is the same thing.
It's not the most elegant font in the world. What is it? The exact same font as on the Mac currently, or is it?
I think so.
The source code ones come from the layout, which we redistribute, and it should be identical.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah.
It just looks bad because it's so big.
Yeah, yes, it will obviously, as we've discussed, be a different size, but yes.
Isn't the kerning different? Am I going crazy? I've got a Mac here, which I can't readily put on Zoom, but well, okay. And actually, it doesn't even look demi-bold on my Mac.
Right. Yes, it is plain on Macintosh. I just confirmed. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that was not relevant. So if we say all right, fine. Okay. All right. So listen. First, that's still 75%.
By the way, Carl Lang makes another point which I like very much.
What's that? On our live stream?
On the live stream, yes.
Pixel constraint is even more crazy on mobile devices. Yeah.
Yes.
What do you think NB Lite does on a mobile device when you?
Well, so pixel constrained is, as I recall, it's a kernel thing. It's not a front end thing.
It is a kernel thing.
Yeah, and it might do. Yeah. So who even knows?
Fine.
But I'm actively lobbying to deprecate pixel.
Fine. Well, at least we could put some commentary in the documentation for 12.1 saying that it is
I'm happy to write tons of commentary. I don't have a problem with that.
Right. Well, so let's put some commentary in pixel constraint for 12.1 and expect that as high DPI becomes more common, it'll just disappear.
Sure.
Okay. So let's go back here to okay. I'm still concerned about the sizing here. Does it not bother you? I mean, are you like used to seeing things of this size?
Well, it's I'm running my daily builds or my nightly builds.
This is fuzzy. Look at this.
Yes, we know. Fuzzy. We know. It's a bug, and Ian already has a pull request open for it. We know.
Well, John, would you write code with fonts of that size?
Well, it depends. My eyes are getting worse with age.
Okay.
I
can't believe it'd be true because that doesn't look like what
yes, it's a little large for me, but it's not. Yeah. It's not like gigantically large though. But you're asking me for my opinion on design. What are you thinking?
No, this is like, for certain use cases, to me, it seems overly large.
Yeah, to me, it looks overly large. So what are we going to do about it? I mean, the question is, living with it just because this font size arose from some lie
and by the way, understand, it's not just the font size. It's everything. I mean, image size. The same thing is happening to image size.
Okay, but so the only thing that would work is to go to a different magnification. And Jeremy is concerned that would lead to other things happening. But we could, whatever. If it was different magnification,
they might be already happening now without magnification. Like the stuff I'm worried about might already be slightly.
Yeah, well, this is already fuzzy. So I mean, there's something wrong there anyway.
Exactly.
So,
bug. Don't worry about this. This is just a bug. Okay.
Okay, fine. This is just ridiculously big here. Let's look at what this would look like at 75%. Looks pretty reasonable to me at 75%. Now, is my monitor? I mean, I have a big hunking monitor here. So
so here's something else that happened. Window size scaled too.
In what sense?
Window size is documented and has always been documented to be in points, not pixels. We have treated it sometimes as if it were pixels, but it's never been documented that way.
Okay.
And window size is not subject to magnification, at least not presently. I mean, we could.
So what's your point?
Boy.
Ian, yes, I've never raised this point to Ian before. Yes, this is going to make Ian groan. We could make window size subject to magnification, but that would have some potentially strange and maybe very undesirable consequences.
Okay, so look, what I propose is that I mean, again, you can shoot this down, but I'm proposing that we try 75% or something. I mean, we could try, I don't know whether it's 80%, 75%. What is the ratio of 11 point to 13 point? 84%. Okay, so let's say 80% magnification. And by the way, if we're going to do this,
by the way, it technically is 75%. I mean, it's 72 versus 96 DPI. For a low res monitor.
72 versus 96.
Right. That's for a low res monitor. Okay. And if you have 200% scaled, it's going to kind of work out the same way. But there are all kinds of scalings that happen under Windows. I mean, 100% scaling is the 96 DPI, but you can have 125% scaling.
What do you mean you can have? What is the
It's not theoretical. People buy machines that are by default scaled to 125%.
Yep.
Independent. So in other words, then we would be, if we said our magnification was such and such, then we would be demagnifying back to 100%. Let's say. So in other words, they would take our 75% magnification and scale it up to 125%.
They would scale the whole OS up 100%.
I understand that.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
our font size effectively here would turn
and we would scale back down. Yeah. So I mean, so it's
wait a second. What do you mean we would scale back down? Why wouldn't they be scaling? We would scale back down from their expanded 125%. Not, we wouldn't scale down. We wouldn't be. It wouldn't be that
we're scaling down from points.
What?
Points. We are scaling down from points.
I'm confused. So is it the case?
So
if I go to my
when you
control
say
panel,
75%, when you say magnification set to 75% or 100%, what does that mean? That means that you had a thing before which say was let's say it was an image that was 200, that was 100 points across. 75% magnification means it's now 75 points across.
Excuse me, where is the control panel?
So it's that little gear icon. I don't know if changing this would be a good idea during a live stream, but
this may seriously mess up your live stream. But
you can look at it.
The options.
System.
Under system.
And then scroll down on the right-hand side.
Oh yeah, sorry, right here.
Yep. So that 150% recommended.
Oh my God, what is that? That's crazy.
What's what?
That it's 150%.
Why is it crazy?
What did it just
do? Did you put your ruler on the monitor? Maybe it's exactly right.
Because this monitor is extremely high resolution, you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, what Microsoft is doing is, and I'm not going to describe the algorithm because I don't even think they fully described it, but effectively what it is they take the raw resolution of the display. So in this case, 38 something by what would that be? Okay. 21 something
by 2000 basically.
Yeah, something like that. And then they ask the LCD what the physical dimensions are in inches, or actually in that case, it's going to be in millimeters. And then they do some math to figure out what they consider to be
readable stuff, right?
Exactly.
So they're going to assume that applications are throwing up things in 10-point type, but 10 points, by 10 point, by 10-point type, that is translated to mean 10 pixels, but 10 pixels on this display will be microscopic. So they're expanding it to be more pixels, even though points should have been points, but isn't points because it's pixels. Is that correct?
They take, so like if you look at the docs for how they want you to specify font size and points, is that they basically apply a 133% increase to it, and then the pixels would take off from there. So basically, you could think of it as a 10-point font times 133% to get it into pixels, and then times the 150% that you see there. You can think of it as
absolutely bonkers. I mean, the 133% to get to pixels is because what? On an old sort of toaster, that was how it worked. Is that right? I mean, why is there 133% to get from points to pixels?
Well, they wanted it to be easier to read. And so
no. Easier to read where?
Well, okay. So many decades ago, Microsoft had this notion that there was a big difference between reading a 10-point font on a sheet of paper and a 10-point font on a screen.
Right.
And so they introduced this factor to make, in their view, the font on the screen as readable as if it had been on paper. Now, I'm not absolutely certain, though, whether this, scaling factor is, how much it's really still a thing, though. I think that, I've just done a little bit of checking, but I think the truth of monitors has gotten much closer to Microsoft's exaggeration. If you understand what I mean by that. Ian,
no, I'm totally confused. I mean,
even feel free to disagree with that, but I think that's the case.
Okay, let's zoom out for a second. Okay.
So in other words, it used to be that a low res monitor was basically about 72 DPI, and you did this in 1996. You pulled your ruler out, you put it on the screen, and you said, it's 72 DPI, look at that. And we had the same discussion about Microsoft. You don't remember it, but I do, back in 1996. But if you were to do the same thing on a low-res monitor today, you would find it much closer to 96.
Okay, I'm going to try doing something here. This may blow up our live stream. I'm going to try changing my display to 100%. Okay? Didn't blow anything up. Can you still see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Smaller.
Did it get smaller for you?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, everything got smaller.
So let's now look at 100% magnification here. Oh, that's magnificent. I mean, that's about the right size. At 100% magnification, it's a little
now, of course, the menu font is pretty small.
Microscopic. Yeah, it's microscopic there. But this is, so in other words, this size, if I were to compare that, how does that compare, do you think? I mean, you can't tell because your monitors are different from my monitor, right? But to me, this looks a little bit small, but not outrageously. I have a Mac laptop right here. I mean, I could use the KVM switch, but then you wouldn't be able to see what I could see because I'd be on a different. I could connect. Yeah. Actually, I could connect. No, I could connect the alternate KVM. No, I've got a Linux box here as well. Yeah, I mean, to me, yeah, I mean, on my Mac, I'm looking at a Mac laptop. I'm looking at this 100% size. And this looks to be physically about the same size at 100% declared resolution for the Windows machine. It looks to be about the same physical size as my 100% on a Mac. Does that surprise you?
No.
Okay, so 100%, if the declared size on the Windows machine is 100%, if the operating system declared size is 100%.
But what I'm suggesting is that one of them is lying to you, and I wouldn't assume it's the Windows one.
I understand that. I understand. But what I'm saying is...
Or both of them might be lying to you. That's frankly possible as well.
Yeah, okay. But what I'm saying is that at 100% declared size on the Windows machine, right, our font choices look okay.
Well, they were designed for that size. So that's...
I understand, but the Windows machine decided of its own volition, so to speak, to scale everything to 150%. Right? That caused our fonts to look gigantic because our fonts were correct had it taken 100%. But now the okay, so let's look here. So then we go back to 150%. Let's watch it do its thing. That was very undignified of this Windows machine. That was very undignified that it moved that window. It did not need to move that window. I am shocked. Anyway, sorry, that's irrelevant. But okay, so now that looks pretty big to me. And particularly, it looks really big compared to this. What determines the size of that system font?
I don't know if they brought that back so you can change it. But if my memory serves me correctly, it is a 9-point font.
Okay.
It's somewhere in the control panels.
They might have allowed you
digging.
Yeah, if you type into the search field text size.
Okay. All right. Well, fine. I could do that. But well, okay. And that's actually, I wouldn't mind seeing how they've done this. Text. So make text size bigger.
Yeah, if you drag the slider slightly, you can make it bigger, but you can't make it any smaller than that.
Wait a minute. Wait. Okay, so this here, change the size of apps and text on other displays. Okay, that's right. But this is the main control that we've got here.
Yeah, that has an influence over everything.
Right.
And
okay, so wait a minute. So this here. Okay, I'm going to do this. This may be horrifying again. Help! Oh my God. It said, please wait. And then it did that. Okay, so what this now did, what did this do? This changed the Chrome, the Windows Chrome settings, so to speak, but it did not change the in-application settings.
Correct. Because what that did was it basically adjusts the Chrome font sizes. I mean, we spec, our font designations are absolute values, 12, whatever.
Yeah.
The system ones are, we call them symbolic because we're just referencing them from whatever the system did. So basically, anything that touched the system would have updated because you changed the font size.
Okay, so why are we not sizing our default everything based on the system, based on what people set for the quote sample text? Why are we not basing it on the system setting for text size?
Because it's based on points. That's what it's documented to be based on.
Because what's based on points?
No, I think what he was saying is, why is, for instance, the font size for standard form 13 as opposed to having it be, for instance, the value that comes from the system?
Exactly. Or the value that comes from system plus 2 or something, or whatever it is. Because that way, if somebody adjusted their, presumably somebody is adjusting this because, given their monitor and their eyesight and their whatever else, they want to
make it bigger. That's exactly why they put that back too, by the way, it's an accessibility thing.
I understand. But my question is, why are we not keying our sizes? And by the way, none of the other apps I have up here are keying their sizes to this either. But why are we not keying our size, our font sizes, to the setting of that, overall thing? I mean, this is so confusing. I mean,
well,
they're eliding the fact that this display thing doesn't really affect very much, because then they're saying the size of apps and text on the main screen.
Well, yeah, I mean, they say that because they know that, apps that are built are spec'd, with certain hard-coded font sizes, and it wouldn't adjust to it.
What do their UI guidelines say about all of this stuff?
Ooh, I haven't looked recently. I don't know the answer. It would take me a while to dig that up.
Regarding what specifically are you
What to do with font sizes, what their recommended font sizes for text and so on, and how it's supposed to be determined. So, I mean, the issue here, okay, to me, this is the big smoking gun, the fact that it already scaled up to 150%. So
I mean, if we have a symbolic size, then one thing that you risk is that, this is a size that's going to change on every machine, that you load it on. If the size of a label and a graphic, tick labels, for example, are based off a size that is dependent upon your machine, and we determine how to avoid collision based on that size, then it may look very different on other systems. It may look,
But aren't we dynamically determining those collisions on the client side at render time?
No, they're being determined at compute time. It would be very computationally expensive.
Wait a minute. So if I have a graphic, hold on. If I have a graphic, you're telling me. So let's try this.
A lot of the kind of stuff that Brett does to avoid. There are a few things that we do with tick labels to try to you know, in the common case of, you know, graphics and graphics 3D. But there are a lot of cases where, you know, somebody in Brett's group is, you know, is doing something considerably more sophisticated, and they can't rely on the logic that lives in the front end. And what you're doing, I think, is a good example of that.
Okay. Let's go to higher density. Let's see what this does. Okay, so if we go like this, everything's hunky-dory, right? Although those dots got bigger. We go like this. Am I seeing those things? No. I'm seeing those get closer together because the dots are getting closer together, but I'm not seeing the fonts rearrange.
Right, because the fonts are at a fixed size. They're a fixed point size.
Yeah, now if I went down here to 75%.
And so it seems, I wasn't sure if this would be the case, but so it seems are the little call out ticks. Those don't seem to be resizing either.
Yeah, they don't. Okay. Boy, what a mess. Okay. So let's go through the facts again. Okay. So we're using 13 point by default. Word is using 11 point by default. Is that correct?
Yeah, for its default style sheet, yes.
Okay. So on a Mac, Word is using 11 point but looks okay. How can that be the case?
My Word uses 12 on its default blank document.
Maybe it chooses what to, maybe it determines that based on the size of the display or something.
I don't know. Let me look.
I mean, that would be yet another crazy degree of freedom here.
Yeah, so I have no, I doubt that it's different based on the resolution, but it may be different.
Listen, on a laptop that I have here, my Word started and its default magnification was 126%. Is that because I left it like that? Or is
Probably,
yes.
Right. Wait a minute, I can't have left it like that because it isn't even activated. It's not even letting me type.
So, like mine on my Macintosh is 95%, and I don't know why that is, but you know, it might very well be because I fiddled with it at some point before.
I think we are looking for gremlins where they don't exist. I think, or where they, you know, I think it's defaulting. I think it's changing the magnification by default. That is, I think that it's actually I love the fact that there's an article called "How to Master."
No, because if I take a blank document, I change the magnification, close the document, and quit Word and restart.
Okay, so yeah, that's what it says in this document. It says it remembers them.
Yeah.
Well, that's another thing that we could do, is to remember that. Because that wouldn't be crazy. If somebody says, I don't like it, I mean, so that's obviously how Word is dealing with this. In other words, if you set this to 75%, then by default, everything goes to 75%, perhaps.
What if you somebody sends you a notebook at 10%, then you close it?
What do you mean? No, but the whole point is, Jeremy, that the decision we made with respect to the cloud is what you deploy, when you deploy, unless you insist otherwise, magnification drops off.
Okay, so it looks to me like Word on Mac basically is treating magnification as at least when you're opening a single window at a time as a global setting. So,
sorry, I missed that. What did you just say? What's being?
It's treating magnification as a global setting if I only have one window open at a time. So like I open a file, I change magnification, I close the file without saving it, I open a different file, and whatever magnification I set last time, I get into the next file.
So in other words, it's got non-local. It's got non-local communication of magnification from the file you had before to the file.
But that's not what happens if you have multiple windows open at once, which is something different, and I haven't quite understood that yet.
Oh my gosh. This is such an unbelievable mess. But I think that the way that Microsoft is dealing with this for Word appears to be that they are essentially, so somebody says, this looks stupid, so they change the magnification, and then it magically uses that same magnification. Or somebody says, I don't like it because I can't read it because it's too small for me. They change the magnification, and then that magnification becomes their default. And so they just think, oh, this is fine.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not something that we've ever done before. We could do it, but it would create some backward compatibility concerns.
Well, okay, let's actually, we got a bunch of comments on the live stream. Let's just look at some of these. Some amusing ones here, but Flip is talking about the implications for vision science research of all of these crazy settings. Let's see. Bob is saying anything. Okay, so Bob is saying in high DPI mode you want the menus to be bigger, but we don't control that. That's controlled by the OS. I mean, it's writing those up there. Now, what happens if? How do I get a dialog box? What's a good dialog for me to get a fine dialog, for example?
The easiest dialog box. I mean,
okay, so that looks normal. Just fine, but that's is that but that's our dialog. That's not a dialog that comes from.
Well, that's our dialog with all the font sizes based off of the system font sizes.
Right.
So the buttons have the right font size that correspond with all the other buttons on the OS. So that would have should have, barring bugs, followed that little slider around.
Okay, you know what? This is kind of interesting, and maybe we can ask the people on live stream. So several people here. So Flip is saying his word is 177%. Fossil is saying his word is using 11 point at 200%. So I think what we're learning is that Word, and like my one on this machine was 126%, even though, and this is what confuses me even more, even though the slider that says, minus to plus is right in the middle. See what I'm saying? So like, where is the slider? Is the slider
okay. So here's what we can do. We can blame Apple for this because they've conceded that they've screwed things up. If you look at Pages, which is Apple's word processing application, you'll see that their default font size, or their default font is Helvetica Neue 11 point, and their default magnification 125%.
So wait a minute. So they're saying. So what do you then see? Do you see the equivalence of? Do you see something that looks like? I see. Then you see something that looks like our 13-point font. That is, that is our default 13-point font. So in other words, in a different world, we would reset our default to 11 point.
Yes.
By the way, but then we would set our default magnification to 125%.
On Mac, yeah. That's what I'm analogizing here. Yes.
Right. Now let's talk about printing for a second, because right now we're doing yet another hack, which everybody else has done too, which is rescaling for printing, right?
Well, and we've always been serious about points being points, but we've gone through the style sheet and we've said, well, but in the printing environment, some things are actually smaller. So font sizes are a little different.
That's what we did with the printing style environment.
Yes.
Okay, but so
Once upon a time, we actually had a global magnification of 80% with some tweaks. I don't think we do that anymore. I think instead we maintain the magnification, but we like specifically, if I remember.
Okay, so here's an alternative strategy we could adopt. Okay. The radical strategy would be change the default style.
So since we're talking about that, why don't you just change the screen environment to print out right now, see what it looks like.
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, looks good. That's 80%, right? That looks very nice.
Yeah, that's roughly 80% for
right.
most
So
stuff,
that's the equivalent, but we are magically changing it to 80% rather than letting the magnification change it to 80%. So another thing that we could do then is that will be another wiggle room for us, is to change our screen environment. Say working dash high DPI, for example, and then auto magically change the sizes by virtue of a style environment.
Oh, okay. I stand corrected. I was going from memory, and my memory was wrong. The printout environment has a default magnification of 72% globally applied, and then there are other per style tweaks, of course. But
but what the Mac is doing there is it's saying it's 11 point, and then on a printer, if I print it, it will come out 11 point. But when I see it on the screen, it's 125% magnified because that's the default for pages.
Yes.
Okay.
Which, of course, there's a drop down. You can change 125% to be whatever you want.
But the advantage of that is that the thing that is very absolute. Okay. The claim here is that it is more absolute to print it on a sheet of paper than it is to see it on your screen, which is reasonable enough.
Well, I mean, historically, that has definitely been true, because when we, did the legacy system in 1996, every operating system had a way to query what the resolution of the monitor was, but no operating system ever knew. I mean, they had no idea, and they just, in 1996, Mac just always said 72, and Windows just always said 96.
Yeah. And if you're using a projector, right, the thing could be, each character could be 3 feet tall. Right? It doesn't know. How would it possibly know what the final deployed size is?
Yeah.
Although on a piece of paper, because it's, there is a more convincing final deployed size.
So, I mean, we're getting closer these days. With Mac isn't really trying, because it's only got 72 and 144. But Windows, is making some approximation to try to, and there are probably, places where it goes woefully wrong, but it's making some approximation to get a real size.
Yeah. Except when you're using a projector, for example.
Right. A projector.
And just imagine what real size means when you have a VR display, for example.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be wonderful to define that, angular diameter of a character in your visual field or something. Okay, so what are we going to do? So let's again review our options. Actually, we have a number of interesting comments on the live stream. Let me just look at these. Various people complaining about the fact that this is a big mess. Steve saying, don't use Word as a guide. Well, we can use Pages too. Are web browsers, do web browsers do anything? Why do web browsers not have this issue? What do web browsers do? They're a more modern stack.
I'm not sure that I have a really good answer for that, but yeah, I mean, I mean, maybe Jeremy might even know a little more than I do. I mean, the question is, first of all, it only matters if your HTML has an actual point size specification.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. It's only markup with H1s and things. So your browser gets to decide what. Well, let's talk about that in a second. Let me look at some more of these comments. Okay, so Lee on our live stream is saying he thinks the first time you load something like Word, it takes the desktop display metrics to come up with a magnification. That is what I am suspecting.
Well, it's plausible. It's difficult to confirm that, but yes, it's plausible.
Right, and the thing that really surprises me on my machine, and maybe other people could verify or deny this, is that on my random Mac that I have here, the thumb for the plus minus size is in the middle, even though it says 126% as the magnification. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's what makes me suspicious that it knows something more than, you get what I'm saying? That it knows, that it deduced that somehow. I mean, I can go look at another, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, very, very confusingly, I can use the KVM switch to look at my other Mac here. Hold on.
So one of the things which we are working through right now is, how does Rasterize work?
Right. Are we going to get there too?
I don't mind. It's a fun discussion. Absolutely the point.
Okay, hold on. I'm just looking at some more of these comments. Complaints about data set size. Did we look at that? Is there a problem with that?
I can imagine why that wouldn't be the case. It's probably applying pretty granular styles. This is, it's not necessarily unique to data set. I think you would see the problem with any summary blob, for example, that it'll respond to magnification, or it should at least, but it won't respond necessarily to font size.
Okay. Presenter notebooks with high DPI. What's the story with that?
Well, actually, much of presenter notebooks is
it's already pre-scaled.
Yeah, it's trying to circumvent absolute sizes. So, but so for as another example of the data set.
Why did this not work? Oh, did I? Wait a minute. Look, by the way, these buttons aren't fully drawn here.
Yeah, this is kind of high DPI detritus that.
Okay, well, let me also comment.
I don't know if that specific one has been reported.
This looks really stupid because
thing, yeah.
these controls up here are missized relative. And what happens if I go to 75%? Do the controls change size?
No.
Oh, gosh, no. So where did the size of those controls come from?
Well, to be honest, I don't know where all the font sizes came from, but they very well could be fixed.
The doc cell is just hard coded to magnification 1.
Right.
It's not. Think about it. It's not typically the case that toolbars would respond to a magnification change.
No, I understand that, but I'm just saying that toolbar looked wrong. Okay, so this is now. Oh, look at that. So that is. Okay, so the toolbar looks totally wrong here, but let's see what happens if I say start presentation. Well, that was nice.
Yeah, this is all scaled stuff, so this is going to work okay.
Fine.
John, do you think we should change the?
Except actually, one thing that's not scaled is the tick labels.
Tick labels? No, the tick labels look scaled here, but these aren't scaled. Those look like they're system controls.
Yes. Yes.
Do we think it's, I think it's wrong that they're not scaled. If you were doing a presentation, this would look wrong.
Yeah, it's, I can understand it's difficult for the implementer and presenter tools to kind of crawl inside of everything like this and change it.
But okay, but that is what I would consider to be a bug right now. Okay. How do I get out of here? Boy, do we really want publish to cloud at the bottom underneath end presentation?
Yeah, that seems wrong to me. I mean,
Seems very wrong.
You're presenting.
And by the way, the publish to cloud, if we are going to put it up here, no, I don't think you're going to do it in the middle of the presentation. Except the one thing you might like to do is publish to cloud and then put up a QR code that shows, in place of your presentation, here's the QR code for the presentation. That would be pretty cool.
Well, so what I've suggested independently is that you don't necessarily need a live, like publish dialogue or something like that. You can, when you publish, you can get a QR code that you can copy and paste into your presentation.
I understand that, but I think if somebody had just given a presentation and they modified things during the presentation, then it would be pretty cool to be able to say, publish this presentation as given to the cloud and put up a QR code.
Well, I don't know if everyone would agree with pretty cool. Is it really cool when you watch somebody, open the save dialog and type in file names? Is that pretty cool in the middle of a presentation? I don't know.
No.
I mean,
why is that a good thing? I mean,
but if you're publishing in the middle, it seems like sort of the same sort of thing. Like, you didn't.
Well, yeah, but I mean, if the publish to cloud, if all it does is it publishes to an anonymous URL and then just puts up the great big, QR code, that seems like a pretty nice thing to do.
Well, I'm just questioning how many people actually.
Well, nobody's yet doing that, but I've been doing that with QR codes. It's really nice. Okay, in any case, that's a separate thing. Can we pick that up in a different? I mean, that's a presenter tools meets. I mean, that dialogue element is not right now, so we need to discuss that separately. We put that in user assistance or what?
I think it's already in the user assistance queue, actually.
Okay, all right, fine, but it can't go. Okay, fair enough. So that 1,000 down there is using the system. I don't know what it's using. Do you have any idea what that's using?
Well, so let me show you another example. Just type in like control equals Chicago or something like that. And now select the cell and do control equal plus whatever to make the font larger. I'm sorry, alt, not control.
I'm doing an alt equals and nothing.
Alt equal. Select it again. Alt equal. There you go. Notice the Chicago gets bigger and the city doesn't. So this is the sort of thing that's, I'm just pointing out that this kind of thing happens in a number of different contexts, and it's the only way to fix it is basically to force every font size and every control to be relative to some other font size. Everything has to be scaled in order for something like this to work. Now,
which is ultimately what has to happen, I think.
Right. Well, now if you're scaling with magnification, doesn't matter because magnification magnifies everything. But in this case, you're not scaling with magnification, you're scaling with font size. And there's a fixed font size, at a certain number of points around the word city.
Okay, hold on. I just want to oh, this is useful. Someone is giving us a blog from Microsoft on how they do their scaling. What is UWP?
Universal Windows Platform.
Right.
Which is what relative to what we're using?
So that is their latest and greatest application framework building environment.
It's their way of trying to say build one app and have it run on ARM and tablets and what used to be phones, but I mean not anymore. But once upon a time it was.
Okay, have we read this? So have you seen this, Ian?
Oh yeah. I've read it many times over the years.
So what are we? A system scale factor app, or a scaling unaware app, or a dynamically scaling app? I think we're a dynamically scaling app, but it seems like Word has as an initial condition a system scale factor app, and then becomes dynamically scaling.
I mean, that is basically what that is saying is that, like, for instance, you start, let's say you start the front end, and it reads what the scale information is of the system right now when it starts. And then it uses that forever. The dynamically scaling one is my display is at a certain 150%. I take another monitor and I plug it in, and that monitor, let's say I set for 250%, so it's bigger. Pixels are bigger. If we're a dynamically scaling app, if you take our window from one and move it to the other, it's supposed to dynamically adjust to that new monitor. And that's what ours does. So ours is per monitor dependent. So you can go from one monitor and it looks, has certain sizes, and then you move it to another one and the text will adjust accordingly depending on what the density of the monitor is. The scaling unaware ones are what 12.0 and earlier are, where it doesn't know anything about it. And so Windows does a bitblit in order to be able to make it so it still works kind of sensibly, depending on what display you're on.
Yeah, and the list of example apps you're seeing there, I wouldn't trust that because this blog is 4 years old.
Right.
So, it's no longer true that Microsoft products sit in the system scale factor.
Where do they sit?
They would sit in the dynamic scaling.
Right.
Okay.
And Chrome recently, I think in the last, 12 to 18 months, something like that, went to dynamic scaling.
Okay, so wait a minute. So in dynamic scaling, so what would we do if we were doing dynamic scaling? What would that mean for what we do?
Well, I mean, it means that, for example, when you move between monitors, everything changes size. If the monitors are at different scales. And I mean,
okay, so I just did this with like with an iPad as an extension for a laptop screen, right? With Duet.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Duet itself.
Duet can set the scale. I don't know what you would have the scale set at, but Duet can set.
No, I know that. I reset it because I didn't want it to do whatever it was doing, where it was doing something completely crazy, where it was completely invisible. Because
and so Mac and Windows, have a slightly different effect. What will happen on Mac is that when you're dragging from one display to another, that you won't actually see the window on the other display until your mouse pointer crosses over. And so the window only shows up on the screen where your mouse pointer is when you're dragging windows.
Okay.
On Windows, what will happen is you will see the windows on both displays, but if they're different scaling, then the window will look gigantic or small on the wrong display until your mouse pointer crosses.
What about the content of the window? Will it have
Yeah,
so it will have scaled itself up or down.
But then the moment I forget whether it's when the mouse pointer crosses over or whether it's when
the sunset of the window occurs. So.
Yeah, but in any case, then suddenly everything resizes underneath you to the new monitor.
Except it won't in our case because, like as you point out, some of the graphics things are already determined, so it'll just look stupid. Right?
So no. So what it'll do is it'll just it. So the point size doesn't change between the two. It's just the number of pixels that it takes will change between the two.
Yeah.
That's the change. Yeah. So the difference is the thing that he was showing was that he was forcibly changing the font size, but some of them are hard coded. And so therefore they can't react to changes in font size around it.
Okay, but so it's equivalent to magnification. This change of physical pixel size should be equivalent to magnification.
It basically is.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it has the same fundamental property in that it's global, at least throughout the inside of the notebook window.
Okay.
The one place where they differ is that magnification doesn't change the window size, whereas scaling does.
Magnification doesn't change. Yes, I understand. I understand. Right. Okay, Flip has done some empirical work. His machine, Mac OS with 200 DPI screen, 72-point font renders at 56 points on the screen. Scaling Word to 125 points, okay. Okay, Illustrator and InDesign, when you ask for 72 points, at 100%, it's drawn as 72 points on the screen. Brian is saying the fundamental problem is that Microsoft uses what they call effective pixels. Yeah, I mean, that's the, okay. All right, let's unravel what is going on here, okay? My suggestion, I think there's a few possibilities here. My suggestion is the least horrifying is to set the default magnification based on, when you first start notebooks, to set the default magnification based on looking around and seeing what we can see about your monitor. Put it on a different monitor, it's not going to work. You'll have to change it. But then to have the a newly created window, I may regret this, this may be stupid, a newly created window.
Oh, you barely use Windows. You won't regret anything, right?
I'm going to be using it. I want to use Windows more. I like the way it looks right now. But in any case, but we'd have to do this on all platforms. I mean, it has to be uniform. So then what we would do is take the magnification of any newly created window from the most recent magnification setting. That makes sense? So in other words, at t equals 0, when you first install, we are attempting to determine a reasonable magnification setting.
Well, I think the only thing we can do is introduce a new a new magnification setting, which we had once upon a time, and then we removed it, but we hadn't really implemented it.
Is there any chance that we could get a continuously variable magnification thing?
In principle, the only reason we're not doing it now, I mean, that works now. You could hook it up to a dynamic slider, and it would work. The problem is that we have some implementation issues where it consumes an awful lot of resources going through the, if you're dragging through, we're not doing a great job at garbage collecting some system resources, and that's why we haven't changed the drop down to a slider or something like that.
Okay.
It's on our list of things to deal with. It's
okay.
Just one of these legacy CRUD things we have to deal with. But
we could have more levels here. We could have a type-in level.
But today, if you want magnification of 93.75%,
I know you can get it. You just do set options, right? And we could provide some type-in thing or something to let you do that if we really wanted to.
But I mean, my concern here is that the only way to do this really is to have an independent magnification option, which would also, for example, affect window size.
What do you mean? What? Oh, you mean?
Yeah, because because the visual trick, it's really easy in Word to go around and change the magnification because you have a fixed page size. So as you change the mag, the view display is pretty consistent, other than the
right. Well, we would rewrap. Yeah. If you change magnification, we would have, because we got fixed window size, we would rewrap a bunch of stuff.
Right. That's the way it works now. But if you save a document on one platform and it sets a particular window size, and it's going to look different when you open it on another platform.
Well,
settings like settings like the size of the default help viewer, the size of a new notebook, these sorts of things. These are all going to be different.
Okay, so here's the big question. The big question is, if you, oh gosh, this is so messed up. I mean, if you have something, you have a notebook, like I have notebooks that I have by default set at like 30% magnification, right? Because I just want to see a lot of stuff on the screen and I don't usually want to drill in. I just need to see headings mostly, okay? And then, but what you're saying is if we did this thing where it ignores the magnification when it is deployed on another machine, how would it even know? I mean, if the notebook is stored in like Dropbox or something, and or a network file system, and it's the same notebook, where would it even remember what the setting was on a particular machine?
Well, I mean, essentially what I'm suggesting is that, we already have notebook magnification. What I'm suggesting, and it has certain features. One of its features is that it gets saved into the notebook if you change it from the default.
Yep.
Another one of the features, by the way, is kind of a weird one, but useful, I think, is that if you set global magnification to, say you set global magnification 200% or whatever, it actually won't show 200% in the dropdown. It's 100% of the ambient magnification is what it's showing. So what I'm suggesting is that we could have a global only option, something that never gets saved into notebooks, but which can get multiplied into the effective magnification.
Okay. And that which is equivalent to the Windows,
and then that could be settable from the preferences dialog.
Right, which is exactly, now look at what they did here, right? So notice that's not a slider. I wonder why they don't make that a slider.
I'll tell you why. Because if you, I think, if I recall, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, but I think that you can set it to specific values, but if you do, it forces you to reboot your system because it has to like reconfigure.
Oh, that's right. It said that. Yeah, it said that. It said you might have to reboot.
Yeah. In Windows 7, they actually gave you a little ruler, and you could actually like drag, select how much DPI you want.
Yeah, if you wanted 129% magnification, you could get it.
Yeah. That was deprecated. That was deprecated in Windows 8. And the main reason, I would guess, I'll venture out on a limb here, then maybe I shouldn't, but I will. I'm gonna venture a guess is that if you start doing like I'm gonna allow it to be 212 DPI, they have fixed scaling. For bitmap assets, there's fixed, multipliers that they use. And then now all of a sudden you start getting into weird cases where you can't draw bitmaps at all. And that's hard enough to do in this world in the first place. And it would be really hard to get it right in that world.
Hey, this is Ethan on a live stream suggested trying this. And this is very weird that this is so big. Anybody understand why this is so big?
Why?
I don't think we really need all the dynamic. The dynamic thing is super cool, but I don't know why it's. Well, I see magnification.
Magnification. It's 400%. So
yeah, okay. So this looks beautiful. This works fine.
Yeah, I didn't understand the question because
because this is looking great. Yeah, this is looking wonderful. Okay, so this was a success. Whatever was done to make this work, it was a success. And I don't know whether things like Okay, so your proposal, John, is that there is a global, so in other words, what's happening is, this is so freaking crazy. It's just crazy. So the operating system, perhaps we can get that number, right? Of what from the operating system? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep, we already do.
Okay, and then we can say, okay, based on what we know, we're going to recommend a default setting that is where we demagnify things to correct for the magnification that was done by the operating system.
Well, I think the default would just be for Windows and Linux would just be a straight 75%. Because what we're doing today assumes 72 DPI, which those operating systems tend to scale to 96 or something based off of 96.
All right. So essentially, what we're doing is a revision of our early 90s hack with printers. Right. The hack with printers is make it 80%.
Yeah.
And so what we're doing is we're redoing that hack now for screens.
Yeah.
Seems like a somewhat reasonable solution.
So one advantage, Ian, tell me what you think about this.
So sorry, just a second. And when we print, we are then essentially removing the hack because we've got the same magnification for printing as we do for display, at least relative to the up magnification done by the operating system.
Right, and we're already doing something similar with magnification itself. I mean, regardless of what you set for magnification, if you set it at the notebook level or the global level, it has no impact on printing.
Right. By the way, Leo on our live stream has come to the same conclusion that we have, that we want a global default. Well, not they're saying default font size. Yeah. But this is okay. Look, I think this is a solution. Okay. And so, how are we going to? You're saying we just set it to 75% and be done with it.
75% on Windows and Linux, and 100% on Mac.
And then it's resettable somehow.
It would be in the preferences dialog, because this would be a global only setting. Yep. And Ian, I think this would be easier than the previous exact magnification that we have, because all it has to do is participate in notebook level stuff, and it will filter into that ambient magnification that we compute for notebooks, and then it's out of the picture from there on out.
Okay, I like this solution. Okay. All right, can we continue? I know you have other things we want to discuss.
Yeah.
Okay, what's the next horrifying thing?
Okay, well, so let's talk about Rasterize.
What does Rasterize do right now for its rasterization choices? I mean, how does it decide its? How does it? Go ahead.
So what's basically the automatic behavior is, I think, what you're asking.
Yeah.
So the automatic behavior is this. It goes out and looks at.
I don't. My fingers are not reprogrammed for this. I'm typing the wrong things. So sorry. Go ahead. Yep.
So what it does is that when you ask it to rasterize something and you don't specify any other options, it goes through and enumerates all the displays that are on your machine to find out what's the densest.
Excuse me. Look at that thing there. What the heck is that?
What do you mean? What is that?
Well, I know what it is, but why is it so big?
Well, because once again, it's a control with a magnification hardwired to 100%.
I see. But in your global scheme, that thing would 75%ify itself.
Yeah, that's the tricky part, isn't it? Yeah. That will require some thought.
Okay. I mean, I actually don't think it's terrible that big, but I think its design isn't quite right, given that if it's that big. Okay, go ahead.
So Rasterize, what it does right now is it basically goes, what's the densest monitor that I have? And it will rasterize so that it looks, so basically you always have the most pixels possible to rasterize it without getting completely and totally crazy. So in Mac terms, that would be if I had a Retina laptop and like a really old crummy monitor hooked up to it. If I do rasterize, I would get out a Retina version of it, even if I rasterized it on the old crummy monitor that doesn't look so good and it's non-Retina.
By the way, did this demagnify?
If I remember correctly, that does not. That does not in its current form.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So another issue. Okay. Go ahead.
So basically, the MO for this is to make the prettiest picture possible without, if you give it no other inputs.
Prettiest picture consistent with what you are visually seeing on your screen. Or
yes, on your machine.
On your machine, not necessarily the screen.
I can't imagine this is a good idea. I would have thought we should just have fixed the resolution of Rasterize and just decide what it is. And
well, so do you really want on your nice Retina display to rasterize at 72 because fixed seems better somehow? That doesn't.
Why don't we just rasterize it? Okay. How close, in terms of just what human eyes can see, if we rasterize the Retina display resolution, what is it, 144 or something?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Would that not be a good solution?
Well, it's not a very good solution if you're on a 300% scaled system, is it? On
what
Windows.
What do you mean by that?
Well, 144 DPI as opposed to, as opposed
240? No, it's more than that. 288.
Okay, so what you're saying is
288. Yeah. I mean,
if I do this,
300% scaled system is twice the resolution, reported resolution of a Retina system.
By the way, I'd just like to point out how ridiculous it is that we're getting those extra things in the autocomplete there. I just want to record that fact.
Oh, yeah, no, those shouldn't be there.
Right. Anyway.
Yeah.
Glitch in 12.1. Okay. All right. So now, I don't even know what those auto suggestions are.
Okay. So now here's something. Everything we've been talking about, so raster size is pixels. Okay. It makes a difference. If you give the same, if you're going to talk about pixels, that means that on your Retina display, it's going to have an apparent size, of
half what it is on the other display.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, I've got another trivial point. If for our design folk, I really think those books are incomprehensible. I think it's the wrong iconography. I think it has to be something that indicates a link off to that.
I think we already have Parth. Don't we already have something feeding into the user assistance meeting about that? I think we do.
Yeah, we do.
Okay. I mean, it just needs to be something that is more of a go off to documentation type thing. Okay. So what are we trying to see here? That was really weird. What the heck did that do? Oh, that's the overall raster size across the whole. That's the image size.
So that is 100 pixels. But obviously, I mean, if you count them, it's 100 pixels across, and that is the documented behavior.
What's wrong with that? I mean, that's what I asked for.
Yeah. But I mean, what we're doing is and I don't have a complete list. Maybe Shadi and folks can help kind of enumerate some of the issues, but. I mean, basically, we need to tighten the screws down on, what is image size, what is rasterize, what is image resolution, and how do these three things interact with one another. And so, for example, image size is documented to be in points. It's documented everywhere to be in points, but it's documented also in rasterize to be in points.
I think that we knew points were a fake.
But some people have used image size as a proxy for pixels.
By the way, that I was the wrong size at this demagnifier. Anyway, you know that.
Yeah, but image size has been used by some folks as a proxy for pixels. And so they rasterize something with a specific image size, and then they expect to call image dimensions on it and get what they put in for image size.
Well, that's just going to be wrong, isn't it?
That's going to be wrong, yes. I
bet I've done that, actually, because I didn't really understand the difference.
Well, and other people inside the company have done that too.
Right.
Okay, let me understand this again. Okay, so we've got image size, which was supposedly in points.
Yes.
But it still is. with the update.
Okay. But so what would happen? Okay, I understand. So image size is in points, but what obviously Rasterize is committing itself to a certain number of pixels because that's what it does.
Right. So, our claim is that image size shouldn't have anything to do with the number of pixels that Rasterize creates. What image size has to do with is,
the final displayed size.
The final displayed size. Yes.
Right. So what I should be able to do is to say raster size 100. So here's an interesting test. If I say raster size 100 and image size 100, what do I get?
You get. I don't know what you get here because I rolled this back and then forward, so this probably is not up to date.
Oh, for God's sake!
Sorry,
I typed the wrong thing here. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The final result, and I have a demo here ready to a notebook here and ready to demo for you, is that it will be rasterized at 100 pixels and then displayed at 100 points. So
do you want to share and show that? Go ahead.
And if you happen to be on a Macintosh where a point equals a pixel, then you get that, but not necessarily on other platforms.
So, let me take this out. Okay, so if I call this is rasterize of a disk, the image size is 200, and the image resolution, this is image resolution. I can do the same with raster size, but I can say raster size is going to be 100. Then this is displayed as 200, but the number of pixels is 100 by 100 here.
Okay.
Which is exactly what you expect. And if I check here, this is 200 by 200.
Great. What's the 100%? Oh, the 100% is your physical rescaling with the resize handles.
Yeah, no, I'm just clicking here to cause the.
No, I understand that. I'm just looking at that where it says 100%, 100.7%. That's a little weird. It's like your resize handles were slightly nudged.
Yeah, I think I just moved the mouse.
Okay, fine.
But so, and this is actually the backward incompatible thing that we are doing. And the backward incompatible thing is a fix, basically. Because previous to today, image resolution and image size couldn't really work together. Because image resolution was just ignored when you specified image size. Which is kind of weird.
Again. So image resolution is, so in that case, okay, so if you were to give raster size, if you were to give all three, image size, image resolution, that implies a raster size. But if you were to give raster size as well,
this wins.
It's image size. Image size has nothing to do with the number of pixels.
I get it.
But raster size and image resolution, yes, only one of them can be relevant because they both specify the same thing.
Right, but when you say it has nothing to do with the number of pixels, if you include image resolution, image size does have something to do with the number of pixels.
Actually, it's a little more.
Yes,
it's a little more technical than that because I mean, this is here. What it is? Yeah, explicit setting for raster size overrides image resolution. This has been documented here forever. It's still the case. So we are just doing what we were doing. We were saying we did. So this is gonna be 100.
Okay.
Then if you mix.
Wait. What's the image resolution 144? Is because your actual screen is resolution 144.
Oh, I just put it here. I mean, I can put anything here. Now I can put any number. This would be ignored because of
raster size. Okay.
Exactly.
But if you put 144 there, show me with 144. With image resolution 144 and image size 100.
100?
Yeah. So now how many pixels is that? So click on that.
This is 200 because I'm on a 144. Like this is image size is in points, yeah? So 100 in points means 100 pixels. No, sorry, yeah, at the resolution.
Wait a second. Image resolution. What? Now I'm confused. What does the 72 have to do with anything? You're saying this is now doubling.
One point is 1/72 inches.
Okay.
Fixed at 100% magnification.
What units is image resolution in?
DPI is pixel per inch.
Okay. Hey, here's a little random point. We should obviously support units in these, and it might help make things clearer.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, we could. This is a nice idea. So if I do this,
and we've been talking about doing some stuff in the front end as well, but it just can't make it for 12.1.
Yeah, I understand, but at least at the level of the kernel and Rasterize, we could support.
Units. Yeah, I don't see one of these. It's a very good idea.
Okay.
So right now, if you see this thing, I can even drag it up. I'm putting this ruler here exactly for this reason. So this thing here, image size 72, is exactly 1 inch. And it has twice as many pixels as points, because I'm on this type of display. If I say resolution 72, nothing changed in the size, but now it has 72 pixels per inch.
Okay, okay.
Standard resolution. So we're doing good with the scaling here now.
By the way, Ethan on our live stream is asking about export.
That depends on the image format that you use, but beyond that, I'm not really image format expert here. Shadi, can you?
But we don't have to worry about that, right? Because that's a separate thing. Image size on a GIF, for example, what does it do? Isn't that
well? So GIF, if I recall correctly, is pure pixels.
So when we say image size, we're not defining it with a raster. We're not admitting that it's a raster. We're just saying image size, blah, and we're just taking that to be pixels in the GIF. Is that a true statement?
I think
it's kind of a hack, but I mean,
yeah,
both what everybody
for an export, image size has always been taken to be raster size. I really doubt we want to change that. It's a bad backward incompatibility.
Yeah, we don't want to change it. It's been used a million times, and it is what it is.
Exactly. It should have been raster size, unfortunate, but whatever now.
But we do have to document that with some clarity. That image size is pixels for export. So let's walk through this again.
Do we want to start using raster size, advertise that more, and see maybe in 10, 20 years, deprecate image size?
Yes.
For export, we could start supporting raster size in export.
Right.
Shadi's thinking of the long game. Good for you.
Well,
John,
I mean, you're talking about. Yeah, you're talking about what happened.
I'm not being critical. I'm saying hooray. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. Let's go back here. So, what is the question here? Is there something that's changed? What happened?
What happened is, let's go up here. So there are two incompatibilities with the previous version. Image resolution used to be ignored where image size was specified. Now we don't do that anymore.
I see. Because image resolution has to be, there's no automatic setting, is there, for image resolution, or is there?
There is, which is your actually, we are also introducing this $image resolution. This is design pending, patent pending. And this, I think, is useful because you can use it. You can use to set your global value for resolution everywhere if you want it. Otherwise, the automatic
value
will be...
What is it set to? Is it set by default to automatic?
Yeah, we should be resolved by the front end.
What does it mean? So dollar...
We were actually talking about this shortly before this meeting began, and I think what we've decided on is that it's basically the highest resolution of any monitor you have connected.
By default?
By default,
automatic
yes.
setting?
Yeah.
Okay. But so normally, okay, so it will change during a session if you reconnect another monitor?
Yes, it could.
Okay.
And it's less extreme than switching monitor.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so wait a minute. So what's the incompatibility here? That it used to be that image resolution could be ignored because image size was taken to be the raster size.
Yeah.
Which is no longer the case.
I mean, it was the case by chance. The point is, on a 72 dpi resolution, image size is raster size, but only at that resolution. So it's not that people were doing the wrong thing. They were just, exploiting a loophole in the system. That was you could use image size.
I understand. So for most people, there will be no visible change associated with it because they weren't setting image resolution anyway. I think image resolution, I was always confused by what it meant. So this seems fine to me.
Yeah, there's only a little extra thing here. First, image resolution has to be propagated in the image. And as you see here, I have a fixed size image with 200 by 200 pixels. And if I set different resolution, it displays at different sizes correctly, because I'm saying that this is more and more dense. So now the image object is an expression is aware of resolution. And we of course, we had to teach it about resolution because otherwise 144 DPI images or high-res images would display very big.
Okay, but so by default, image resolution is automatic.
Yes.
But what does that mean for like our auto sizing of images? Like when you put an image in a list and things, and it auto sizes down. Is that done with magnification?
That still is doing that, because you see, if I remove this image size all, which I just put it here exactly to offset that, then everything is auto resize inside of a list.
I see. Okay, that's fine.
Then I re-put this back and just to see the actual size. Yeah.
Yep.
And then there's another super technical detail, which is nonetheless very relevant, is that what happens when I give you an object with some numeric coordinates? Are you thinking about the coordinates as in points or in the pixel space? And to show what happens, let me go here.
Well, I mean, like an image mask, right, is in pixels, isn't it?
It depends. Those we have different functions. So like we have like straight out from the Rasterize page. An example that immediately failed when we switched to high resolution was this. You had these two nice regions. You annotate with region is graphics. This is all vector stuff. You ask for the bounding boxes of the regions, and then you display them. So all this procedure should be absolutely independent of your screen resolution.
Well, it depends on what regions is returning. Is regions returning pixel positions?
Region is returning dimension like coordinates in points.
But that's wrong, presumably, because all our image processing functions work in pixel positions.
But that's the point.
Graphics.
Like, graphics doesn't work like that. And if you do something like this, where you show a rasterized image and some other graphics.
Oh my gosh.
This is
because the point is that graphics is working in points.
Exactly.
Yep.
And so absolute size of a dot in a graphic is based on points. Correct?
Yeah, absolute point size, you mean?
Yeah, absolute point
yes.
size. Sorry. So one question would be, is there a way in graphics of asking for a distance in pixels?
No.
There are no pixels in graphics.
Well, I know, but that you could, in principle, since you know the resolution of the screen, you can say, I want to move by this number of pixels.
But as Ian was helpfully pointing out before, you don't really know where your point will snap before you rasterize. It's a grid that you have to align somehow. The alignment is not always perfect.
Okay, but I mean, for example, in those cellular automaton images, that's why we introduced pixel constraint, is because we wanted to align our essentially graphics stuff to the pixel grid.
But as John was saying, that is a no-go now. This alignment is now very...
No, I understand that, but as a matter of I want to make this thing... I mean, graphic design folk who are here, don't you think about, I'm trying to make an icon and I want it to be 10 pixels tall. Or maybe you don't do that in the modern world.
They make a dozen icons and a dozen different sizes.
Yeah, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that I'm asking, don't you want the ability within a graphic to say, I want this blob, this point, for example, point as in dot. I want this dot to be such and such a number of pixels across. Wouldn't that be a useful thing to have? Right now, it's all in points. And so when you scale the display...
But you need, I mean, how big is a pixel? You'd need to know how big a pixel is.
No, I know, but on your screen. But given that we've now defined dollar image resolution, that defines how big a pixel is. Because the units of image resolution, if I'm understanding correctly, is pixels per inch. Is that not correct?
Yep.
Okay, so then we know how big a pixel is relative to points, which are
you know how
70 seconds of an inch.
Well, you know how big a pixel is.
How big you're declaring
on the maximum size, on the maximum resolution monitor.
Right, but you have declared a pixel size basically by setting dollar image resolution. And given that you've declared a pixel size, one can imagine that it will be useful in graphics to say, look, I just want this thing to be 5 pixels across.
To be clear, dollar image resolution doesn't have any impact on rendering. It has impact on rasterization.
I understand that, but I'm saying we could introduce units in graphics that would use, all they would do is to say, dollar image resolution divided by 72. That would be a a point size obtained from $image resolution by dividing by 72, right?
72 divided by image resolution.
Okay, right. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough. I mean, that would just be...
I cannot comment on that.
Pin that idea. Jeremy,
Yeah.
do you care about that idea, or do you think that idea is irrelevant?
I never ran into it in our language, but we deal with that in Illustrator all the time, trying to make things like this, where you want to align to pixel grid and you export out to that size in bitmaps. So if you're designing vector and you want to export to bitmap, that's important.
Okay. So
here's one crazy idea.
Okay, so just a second, pin that idea for a second. But okay, go ahead. Talk about what you were going to talk about here.
This is the last bit. This is a crazy idea. So show is from the graphics world, always being like that. But we do have functions to plot stuff on an image. So my far-fetched proposal here is that we keep show in points. So you see, I have an image here. I'm with this slider. I'm rasterizing at different resolutions. You see, the image dimension is changing. The plot range of this show is not really changing, except for this sometimes weird snapping on one bit. So this rectangle is fixed and is not moving around, even if the image gets bigger or smaller. This rectangle will always be drawn in the same place, which is a useful feature in many circumstances. If you're working with image measurements, though, you don't want that. You're measuring something on the image. So
hold on. You're showing me what show does when I use show to combine a graphic with an image. Is that correct?
Yeah, the code is this. This function is show. In this case, you have a raster and you have a graphics. So you are combining a rasterized
Okay, I understand.
images.
So you're changing the raster, but let me just understand this. The position of that red rectangle is determined by the image size of the graphic.
Is up.
No, I understand that, but its position relative to the image is determined by the fact that
you would say the plot range of these graphics.
The plot range, not the pixel.
No, I understand, but the pixel, it's going across the full extent of the image because that's how show works. Is that right? What determines how does the plot range map into the position on the image?
Oh, because this image here, I updated the converters. So this image here knows that it has a specific resolution and knows what plot range communicate to the visualization functions.
I'm a little confused by that. Okay, all right, but fine. So that's
this image, regardless of how many pixels it has, will always communicate the same plot ranges because the image solution is scaling together with the dimension.
I don't understand. How does an image communicate a plot range?
Because I mean, you can compute it. I can actually. It is easy if I take it out. So this is an image. This contains an array. If I send it to the boxes world, this is a graphics box of a raster box, and this is a range which is computed using the number of pixels, which is here, and the image resolution, which right now is anywhere because it's a 72 default. But if I change the resolution, the plot range will change, the number of pixels will not change. So you see now, same number of pixels, different plot range, and resolution is written here.
Okay, so hold on. Are you showing me something that, is there a problem here or is there no?
No. Okay, the problem is
with the highlight image though.
Yep, the problem is what happens now if this rectangle, 100, 150, is not a rectangle in the point world, but is a product of a measurement on the image from an image processing function.
Okay.
In that case, this means pixel 100, pixel 150.
Well, who says that? I mean, I don't understand how the pixel, you just told me, everybody's been telling me I can't have pixel measurements in a vector graphics thing.
But no, I'm talking about image processing functions. Like I have a real image, and image processing functions, and I do image cases, I get some bounding boxes. Those bounding boxes are related to the pixels in the image.
But do you give those as rectangles?
Yes.
Yes.
Ugh, that was a hack, because those things are in a coordinate system that isn't a graphics coordinate system.
It's a bit unfortunate that we updated every image processing function to return graphic primitives 2 versions ago.
But also that was the easiest or best way to differentiate between lines and rectangles and so forth.
Okay.
Lines
All right. So let's see highlight image.
So highlight image, what it's doing is assumes that this is pixels. Yeah. So you see the plot range and the position of the rectangle, they are going to change but you see the rectangle now is nep.
All right.
Okay. Nep to the plot
I understand.
range.
So that's a huge mess. Okay. So do you have a solution?
I mean, I think this is a solution. They could behave the same way, but I think that highlight image is basically designed to display stuff measured on the image, while show is designed to combine different graphics primitives. And it converts an image to some graphic stuff, to a raster graphics.
I see. So you're suggesting that highlight image, if you give it graphics primitives, it will assume pixel coordinates in the graphics primitives.
Correct.
If we don't, I think we should document.
So after you just told me that we could never use pixel coordinates in a graphics, you're now proposing that highlight image does use pixel coordinates.
Yeah, because highlight image is just using a thin graphics layer on top of an image, but is meant to be a function to display stuff on top of an image. Is way more precise than a generic graphics. It's his job.
Right.
It's
Let me
pretty
just look
much
at a
all
couple
the
of
time.
comments that we have on our live stream here. There's some interesting things here. Exporting images is important for scientific journals. Yep, we know that. I mean, although often that's in resolution-dependent formats, I would suspect. High-res displays. Well, we're talking about high DPI support under Windows. Okay, Flip is saying, for example, OpenEXR, which we support, right, as an export format. Is that not is that a true statement?
OpenEXR. Actually check.
We have import.
We don't have export?
I think we don't.
Was that, by the way, Giulio, is that the end of your, should I go back to my screen?
Oh, yeah, please. Feel free.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it in our export lists.
Is it in the import list, though?
It is, yes.
Okay. OpenEXR. Okay. So Flip is saying specifies an attribute X density, which is horizontal output density in pixels per inch. What the heck is that telling one? I mean, especially for a cinema format where it depends how far away the projector is from the screen, how big it's going to be. What on earth does it mean when it says pixels per inch? Okay, I'm confused by that.
Well, I'm confused by that particular point as well. But in general, though, the notion being that any raster format that has enough metadata to be able to understand a notion of resolution, it seems reasonable that we would want to be able to support that.
I see a resolution as well as, I get it. I get the point. I get the point. So in other words, we should give, in the metadata, we can say in the exporter, we can have an image resolution option that people can set independent of the image size.
Definitely.
So they could set, so in other words, okay, I understand now.
Yeah, and there are many raster formats which aren't rich enough to support this, but some are.
Okay, so hold on. Maybe we can get ourselves out of the GIF raster size bind in the following way. We've got a triple. We've got raster size, image size, and image resolution, right? Mm-hmm. We agree that either image size and image resolution together determine number of pixels, or raster size determines number of pixels.
Mm-hmm.
So in the case of GIF, where people are just setting image size, then assuming, let's see, you're saying image size, what are we then assuming about image resolution? We're assuming that image resolution is set to automatic in such a way that image size coincides with pixels. right? If we say that, then we're good. Then GIF stays with image size, stays a pixel specification. So in other words, the default image resolution for exporting to a GIF is such that the image resolution, the automatic setting of image resolution for export, is precisely that image resolution which makes image size equal to raster size. I think that will work.
Yes, that would work.
Do we want to explicitly set that in the images that have the location for that? I don't know.
Well, we should find out what formats actually have an image resolution metadata format, a specification, which may not be very many of them. But let's find out what they are. Sure. And if that's the case, if somebody has set image size but has not set raster size and has not set image resolution, we should decide what to do. But we might want to set it that way, yes.
Sure.
Okay, so we got a solution to that. So we don't have to, we don't have to kill image size for GIF export. For EXR export, maybe we do, but since we don't even have EXR export, we haven't crossed that bridge yet, and we can do it correctly, whatever correctly means. Ethan on our live stream is supporting the idea of pixel perfect positioning of graphics together. Okay. What would happen if you use show with arguments, an image, and a vector field? I think that will work just fine, right, Julio?
I'm not really sure about the vector fields. The vector fields like vector plot?
Yes. Why are some formats not supported for both import and export? What is the answer to that? Why is OpenEXR not supported for export? It seems like it would be easier to do export than import. I mean, some formats are very different. Like SVG import is quite complicated, whereas SVG export, because there are things in SVG that are usually import is harder because there are things that SVG, has a 300-page specification or something, and we don't necessarily have ways.
Or EPS, which PostScript is Turing complete.
Yes, right. Right. So what do we do? Right. So to import every possible EPS is hard. And I don't know why OpenEXR doesn't have export. Shadi could perhaps investigate that.
Yep. Predates when we worked on raster formats.
Fair enough. Okay. So anyway, this question about vector field, I don't fully understand. I like, by the way, I'm perfectly happy working on my Windows machine at 75% magnification here. So that's good. Except for the fact that I is too big. Okay, so that is a very boring vector, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take our vector plot, and the question is whether this vector plot has does something funky when it's on top. Oh, why is it a different color than it is in the documentation? Probably nobody here knows the answer to that.
Reevaluated in documentation.
I'm sure it'll change.
I'll bet just nobody's reevaluated that in a long time.
Oh, I remember this issue. This is, I think this may be a 12.0. This was, I think, a 12.0 change. So Parth, I think you're the designated person to go report that.
That was specific to vector plot and presumably other vector functions?
We suspect.
Okay.
Oh, a vector field obtained from an image. So how do we get, so that's something with image corresponding points or something?
I mean,
the image displacements.
The point is, like, if you have a vector field obtained from an image, it will already be scaled correctly because it will use pixel
I see. So it should be fine.
It should be fine, exactly. But let's say you have this one and you want to display this on top of an image. Then the workaround of this is I added an option to highlight image, which is data range. So you can put your image, highlight image, comma this.
Yeah.
And then if you say data range 0101, they will align perfectly.
Fine, but anyway, there isn't a problem because it's the vector field derived from the image and put back.
If it is derived from the image, highlight image is perfectly capable of displaying that on top of it.
Okay, so Ethan is complaining that using inset for images and graphics 3D can be painful for complicated figures. I mean, the coordinates for inset are relative to the 0-1 coordinate system in both directions. Isn't that correct?
I think it's -1 to 1, if I recall correctly.
All right. Anyway, is there any more? I am super late. I've just run over 2 other meetings. But is there any more that we needed to cover here? I mean, were you going to show a bunch of assets for high DPI?
Well, I mean, we could look at assets. I don't know if there's anything that Jeremy wants to call out in particular, but I mean, you know, there's probably not a huge amount that needs. I mean, you know, most of it's just high-res improvements of what we already have.
Question. So Ali on live stream is asking, what if you vectorize the rasterize the vector field? I think that will work fine so long as you define the image size. Somebody maybe can figure that out and send it there. I think if you get the image size and raster size correct, it should work. Okay, go ahead with these.
So I don't know if Jeremy, was there anything, or Billy, was there anything you wanted to call out in terms of assets?
Not really. I mean, the cursors are all up to date, but it's a little hard to systematically go through. I think you.
Yeah, and actually the cursors I have the most problems with are kind of, you know, detailed bits that are a bit difficult to get to. So
yeah.
I mean, I'm just looking at random assets here. These look a bit big. I mean, these don't seem, well, I see that's because they're 100%. And if they're at 75%, they would look.
So, I mean, one of the things that we're doing, which is very painful, but one of the things that we're doing is in a number of places, we're trying to dump bitmap assets and replace with vector assets. You know,
I understand. Hey, listen, there's a bug here because look at these tabs. These have 75%ified themselves relative to imitating these menu items here, I think. So in other words, that was a tab view.
Right. The tab views by default are using the system fonts.
Yeah,
I understand that.
Yeah.
But if you take that system font there, which may or may not be that system font, so gosh, what is going on then? So this is this, if I go to 100% here, the font size in that tab view, it just changed.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because magnification affects everything.
Right.
Okay, except that it also, so this originally took its size from the system fonts and then got demagnified.
Or demagnified, yeah.
Okay,
but
anyway.
Yeah, we've made our interfaces scaled based on old, system font assumptions. So things are going to be out of sync. We haven't really looked at that yet.
Okay.
Or we're mixing kind of system fonts with other fonts.
Are there any other pieces I should look at here? I mean, I'm sure if I look at where is the
if we're really going to do the 75%, we'll have to talk about how that maps into other things like the docked toolbars.
Yes.
It would be weird to not affect that and the welcome screen and other places. Yeah.
Yes, I think we're going to have to do that. Now, question: where is the preferences?
Oh, edit.
Edit preferences. That's a standard thing for Windows.
Why is this taking forever? Oh my gosh, look at that guy. So this is...
that was a 9-point font that got 25% taken away.
I mean, I'm not horrified by it. Boy, I got a lot of weird stuff on here. What is all this stuff anyway? Oh, look, my Vive is connected to this. That's exciting.
That's interesting that registered as a controller. That's weird.
What are these? What are those controllers? Are those part of the Vive stack?
I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I've never seen that before. Yeah.
Valve is it's obviously I'm guessing that's part of the Vive stack.
Obviously,
those are the individual hand controllers.
Oh, I see. Okay. So if I move them around, this should move. That's kind of cool. All right. Look, we probably should. We got to think through the conclusions that we came to from this meeting. So let's take it from there. All right, horrifying stuff. But I think, yeah, this should be okay. I hope. Any further comments, and then we can wrap here. Nope. Okay.
Nope.
Thanks. Thank you all, and thanks to people on the live stream. A lot of very useful comments, much appreciated. Okay, see y'all.